Right, Rishi Sunak sat down with Elon Musk at Lancaster House following the two-day AI safety summit at Bletchley Park. They discussed the future possibilities of AI and some of the dangers, with Elon Musk stating artificial intelligence will one day eradicate the need for jobs.
And it started right now.
With immaculate timing, that's Jeff Moody live in Teignmouth Forest. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Jeff. Right, Rishi Sunak sat down with Elon Musk at Lancaster House following the two-day AI safety summit at Bletchley Park. They discussed the future possibilities of AI and some of the dangers, with Elon Musk stating artificial intelligence will one day eradicate the need for jobs. From a billionaire, remember. Well, Security Minister Tom Duggan had said the UK will be at the heart of regulation for many years to come.
And he's done so, and now is approaching artificial intelligence in a way that is open and is engaged, and that is looking for the ways that we protect ourselves as well as we open up the opportunities. And I think what Rishi's done with the AI Safety Summit, I think what the Prime Minister's doing, is making sure that Britain is front and centre the regulations of the safety script, if you like, that will keep us all safe, and getting Elon to help, but also getting people like Mustafa Suleyman and Demis Hassabis, and of course the people who've actually brought this together, Matt Clifford and Ian Hogarth, is a fantastic achievement.
Well, interesting. Now, joining us now is broadcaster and futurist Andrew Eborn. Andrew, what do you make of what we have seen and heard from Bletchley and the meeting between Rishi and Elon Musk?
Well, I think it's a glorious moment in history, and I always say, absolutely, I'll tell you why. It was first of all, there's the wonderful bromance that went on between Elon and Rishi on stage yesterday. I don't know if you saw the whole thing, but it was glorious, wasn't it? I always say that AI is perhaps our greatest human achievement, but also potentially the biggest existential threat. And for 2 solid days, they got the great, the good and the unwashed at Bletchley Park, the home of computer cracking and the very first sort of code breakers, if you like. And what they did is they sort of worked out, they talked about what the risks are and potentially what we should do to basically counteract those risks.
Were you reassured by what you heard about, because the risks, to be honest with you, Andrew, terrify me. We appear to have invented an AI that is now inventing its own AI that is much cleverer and faster than we are, and we don't actually appear to know what it's doing. So were you reassured by the security agreements put in place for making sure it isn't as dangerous as it potentially could be?
Well, I think the reality is this. We need insight. That's what Elon is saying. We need insight before we have oversight. So we need to work out what are those real dangers. And you're right, there's a couple of aspects to it. One is we could all lose our jobs. And Goldman Sachs, in fact, said 300 million jobs are going to go.
Yeah, that wasn't helping.
It wasn't helping.
No.
Elon said every job will go.
That really didn't help.
That didn't help at all. But the reality is, what happens, jobs we have today, 60% of them weren't here 40 years ago. And so what we're going to do, we're going to evolve. And I think you look at all the different aspects, the seismic changes, the advances in medicine, the diseases are going to be cured, the creative industries, you've got the Beatles, and that was cleaned up. John Lennon's basically was cleaned up by AI. AI want to hold your hand and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is we need sort of understanding. And I think getting the 28 countries, I think it was, round the table, including China, was a great achievement. And I do think, and I predict, that this will be Rishi Sunak's biggest legacy and his greatest one, because Elon, as I said, it was a bromance. They were praising each other on stage, and he sort of was quite good. I think we have a good habit here at GB News, don't we, for employing ex-prime ministers. I'm sure Rishi will make a good job here as well.
Thanks for that. It was quite surreal watching it as someone not an expert like yourself, because we have the British Prime Minister, who's incredibly wealthy, interviewing the world's richest man, and for my limited knowledge, they seem to be talking about Terminator films and the off switch, and it's like, I wasn't quite being as reassured as I'd like to be that regulation will be in place to make this safe.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you say that the rich. I mean, Rishi is pretty rich himself, but he's not. He pales. He's like a church mouse in comparison to
absolutely.
Elon. And also, when they stand side by side, I mean, Rishi is 1.7 meters. I think Elon's up there with he's about 6'2", the same as us in old money. The reality is this: is that we have to recognise what the problems are. And they talk about the off switch very simply because he was saying about machines taking over, and he says, well, the Tesla at the moment, he could run upstairs and Tesla can't follow him. But as soon as you get a humanoid, it can climb upstairs with you.
Exactly.
So you need to have... He was talking about safe words, where you sort of say off or whatever it's going to be, and you work on that principle, it will switch off. I always remember the reality about Daleks and things like that. They could never chase you upstairs.
But they can now. They can now. That's what worries me. Andrew, Eborn, thank you very much for joining me and being slightly reassuring. Plenty more coming up in the show, so please stay with us. Don't go too far.